to the Shelf Sisters. Happy March Book Club episode to us. I know we seem super calm right now. However, we were so frantic before this. Things have just been so wild, and I literally came to Sarash's and I still had 10% of the book left. So she's frantically looking up discussion questions as I'm finishing the book.
That has never happened before.
Never. We've never been this late, but it's just been wild, and that's why we were like late finishing this book. And today is the last day we can possibly record to get this up on time.
Yeah. So we're here. We read March Book of the Month.
Yes, Beautiful
and honestly,
Ugly by Alice Feeney.
Yes, Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. And it's so fresh in my brain that I think, honestly, this is the pro about ending it so early and reading so late, is that everything is so fresh in my brain. Excitement, anger, all of the emotions are like so raw. So we are ready to discuss. But before we do that, Sonia, how has your March been?
Okay, both of us. I seriously am trying to take a deep breath because it has been so wild. Like I just didn't know like I could be this busy without a 9-to-5 job.
No.
And it's been so crazy. So we have personal and
construction.
Yeah, like personal and like business construction
projects.
I don't even know how to like properly describe it.
Yeah, but it's like individually plus together, so it's been nonstop, like go the last few months.
Yeah, lots of like contractor meetings. So I'm doing the stone, like marble stuff along with flooring and dealing with like fabricators. Sarish is working on cabinets
and all of the molding for the home. So it's just like,
and
catch your
by
breath.
the way, like if you didn't know, like we are new to this, and so we're learning as we go along, which is why it's just a lot, but it's been so much fun. But that's why we are kind of frantic and also have been MIA from Instagram and TikTok. And I feel like once we get on, it's either 5 stories or 0, and a lot of the days it's been 0 stories.
Yeah.
So our goal for the upcoming month is just to be on it more. My problem is my home is not like aesthetic. And so anytime I try to take a picture of my Kindle or whatever it may be, the background is not premium. And
when I'm reading, like it is the end of my day because I haven't had time at all throughout the day to read or touch my Kindle or anything personal, is that I'm in bed, I'm finally reading and catching up, and then I'm so tired that
it's the same view.
It's the same view. I'm exhausted.
Duvet, and then my heating pad always, and I'm like, this is
why do you have a heating pad
boring.
every single day?
It's
like
so comfy cozy.
Okay,
you need to try it. Seriously,
it's almost spring. It's hot. I like to sleep in 68 degrees, and Sonia's over here like 72 degrees and like heating pad.
It's everywhere. Besides my heating pad.
Anytime we're in a hotel room together or like at our parents' house together, our biggest quarrel, like fight, it's not really even a fight, but it's just like point of annoyance is the temperature.
Yeah, because you're wild with that. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. And by the way, like we do have it semi-cold, but I need my heating pad. And it's on the lowest setting. And it's just beautiful.
Comfy, cozy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, enough about that, but thank you guys for being patient with us. But like Sonia said, our new goal is to post at least once a day. And now that we're saying it out loud, I feel like it'll actually help us be accountable for this, you think?
I hope so. I just feel like we need to like make it a little bit more cutesy.
I know.
But we're just not those people.
We are not. We're not. It's honestly like real-time updates.
In your home and aesthetic, like your living room, kitchen, it's so pretty, but that's
Please ask me how often like I'm
you sit there.
No, I don't sit up there. Like I literally cook and then I'm like, okay, gotta go.
Yeah.
Like
I
gotta go.
That's me as well. I nowadays, like after dinner, I used to sit on my couch a lot, but now I'm just in bed, and I've storied my Kindle setup a few times with like the holder, the
that
clicker.
Is honestly the best, yeah.
You don't have one, right?
No.
You didn't do the... Oh my God, you guys, if you read on a Kindle, it's all on Amazon. The holder, and then you...
Clicker.
Like, and you can even... There's like
I have a clicker.
That comes with the clicker. But it doesn't matter unless you have the holder.
I know. I am just like so against... This is so granola of me and I need to stop. But electronics in the room. I do not love. I don't have a TV in my room.
The weirdest thing is
I know. But there's no TV in my room, and I just like when I'm in the room, I'm like, I don't want to look at contraptions.
TV? Where do you watch your shows?
Upstairs, but I barely watch shows. Which, okay, wait. Speaking of, do you watch White Lotus? I don't think we've ever spoken about this. No. Okay, so it is a cultural phenomenon. So then I caught on, and I'm watching it this season. I think this is the first season that I'm watching like episode by episode on Sunday. You guys, what is happening, and why is there like no plot? Nothing is moving week by week. Finally, something happened yesterday. But even then, like, it was 5 minutes of it.
I'm still on Gilmore Girls, which I'm almost done. And actually, I feel like we should talk about our current reading situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am so into Gilmore Girls. I haven't picked up my book quite as much. But it's not only because of that. I have had such a reading lull this past month. And it has not been for lack of trying. I've picked up books that either, like, started out good and didn't end so well, or just didn't start out good at all. Like the Mafia one I was talking about before. Oh my gosh.
But at least you're giving people updates on what you're DNFing.
I actually have 2 books that I need to story that I DNF'd. One, I remember the title. It's the Mafia one, Angelic Revenge, something like that.
Even the name like gives me like
it was honestly really good. It reminded me of another one, and then it just got to the point, you know, where you're trying to read a romance and you're wondering why these 2 people like each other. Like the author didn't put in any information. Do you like her personality? Do you like her looks? Do you like her profession? Like what's going on? I knew none of that, and it just like wasn't making sense. And then the other one, it was the one that I talked about. I think it was called The Plot Twist that like Emily Henry did a forward for that I was so excited about. The writing, I was like, why is Emily Henry doing a forward for this? I remember the cover of this because you showed it. Not good. No. And so honestly, like, here's the thing. I desperately want to read a romance book, and I desperately cannot find a good romance book. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'll probably do a suggestion box on our Instagram.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I just want an approved book by one of our followers that I'm not going to be wasting time with.
Honestly.
Oh,
yeah. And that's already 3 days of posting, so bravo.
Oh my God, you're so right. Also, I just realized
here. Yes.
In the middle of reading this book, I got my Libby alert for Beg, Borrow, or Steal, which is the Sarah Adams book that we both talked about wanting to try. And the description, like the summary sounds so good. And so right after this, like tonight, I'll start it.
Is it on Kindle Unlimited or no?
No, that's why I had to do it on Libby.
Okay.
But it didn't take very long. Like I think I only signed up for it a few weeks ago. Okay. So I'm so excited, and because I haven't been having like good experiences with current Kindle Unlimited books, so I'm hoping that this non-Kindle Unlimited one will, you know, help me actually finish a book.
End the rut, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know this is spring book club episode, but we are back to our jeans and sweater. Like, this is the formula for Sonia and I. And she walked in, we're like, we're in sweaters, we're in jeans, we're back to our basics.
Yeah, I think even in July, I'm going to be on here with a long sleeve shirt, because ever since we did that first episode where I was wearing a sleeveless top, actually
you're horrified.
Scarred me for life. And I'll never be doing that again. Seriously.
Wait, you know what? Catch me in that. I think this is month 7? 6 or 7?
No clue. Wrong person to do math.
But we should do a look back at our first episode just to see how far we've come.
Veto.
Okay, well, enough chit chatter. If you guys were reading along with us, we read Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. And
it was Beautiful Ugly.
1000%. And like our brother would say, Hundo P. We read a quick description from Goodreads on the podcast before we chose the book. And honestly, the first 2 lines of the summary on Goodreads sounded so good.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
The entire summary sounded honestly, the last 2 sentences of the summary just like reeled me in. So, Sarah, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, I will do the honors. Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. Alice Feeney returns with a gripping and deliciously dark thriller about marriage, and revenge. Author Grady Green is having the worst, best day of his life. Grady calls his wife to share some exciting news, and she's driving home. He hears Abby, his wife, slam on the brakes and get out of the car, then nothing. When he eventually finds her car by the cliff edge, the headlights are on, the driver door is open, her phone is still in the car. But his wife has disappeared. A year later, Grady is still overcome with grief and desperate to know what happened to Abby. He can't sleep, he can't write, so he travels to a tiny Scottish island to try to get his life back on track. When he sees the impossible, a woman who looks exactly like his missing wife. Wives think their husbands will change, but they don't. Husbands think their wives won't change, but they do.
Love those last 2 lines.
Whoa,
so
whoa,
gripping.
whoa.
Yeah.
No, so gripping.
Yeah. So do you want to get into your thoughts? Because I feel like you're like foaming at the mouth to get them out.
Okay. Let's start off by saying I was so excited to read a thriller, and I was so happy that we found a thriller to read in March. This was published actually in January of this year, so still a fairly new book.
Yeah.
But we had seen a lot of chatter about it on TikTok, Instagram, so it seemed like people were reading it.
Because Alice Feeney is a pretty famous author.
Yes, I hadn't read a book by her ever, but you had, and you liked the other one.
5 stars. I believe it was called His and Hers. I'll look it up while you say your stuff.
So, okay. I also want to preface this by saying this is the first book that I'm reading where a majority of the POV is from a male perspective. I believe this is my first one.
Yeah.
And let me just say, I will not be going back to that. I love my female voices. I want a female POV. And I don't care if that makes me sexist, misogynist. Like, I don't know. But I love stories being told by women. And this just proves it. Like, from a female POV, like, you kind of understand their feelings, like what their mind is like racing to. You can also kind of like expect what they're going to do next. With Grady as like the main POV, at least for the first like 20% of the book, I was so lost. We were like jumping from here and there, and like he wasn't finishing like full thoughts, and I just like was not into that vibe.
Yeah.
So already I was like a little bit like off kilter.
Off kilter.
Off kilter. Off filter. I should not have a book club podcast. And so, yeah, that's what threw me off a little bit. I got excited when he was going to go into like a little tiny Scottish town. I was like, I would love to go to Scotland. And you know how much we love talking about the settings of the book.
Yeah.
I was thrilled. Let me just say, I hated Scotland after this book. And the people weren't like intriguing, they weren't interesting, they weren't captivating. There's not one point of this book where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet this character in real life. Never once was I like, I would love to be in this book IRL. That's just not going to happen for me. And that in itself just told me what I needed to know. And yeah, that's my thoughts. And I will love to elaborate during our discussion questions and then give it a rating.
Great. The book that I was talking about that I have read by Alice Feeney is called Rock, Paper, Scissors. And on Goodreads, I gave that a 5.
Yeah. Your thoughts.
Okay, my thoughts. I liked this book. And I know that Sarah's eyes just got so wide. I liked this book. I will say, I think it went down a few notches for me. But that was by my own doing. It was because I was rushing so much. I started way too late, and I knew that we had this today. Like, this entire day, I've just been reading to finish this book, and literally finish like right before we press record. So I just like wasn't in the best environment to enjoy it. However, if I read it just peacefully on my own time, I definitely would have liked it more. I totally agree about like the male perspective. I want to say like 70% into it, and I was like, why does this feel so different? And I realized, oh my God, I've been like listening to this guy the whole time. And I was even thinking, like, at that one point where he stole the walkie-talkie and heard them talking, I was looking forward to more of that so much. I wanted the other characters to be so much more involved in the book because I just didn't know why. I guess I just wanted more people rather than listening to one guy for 90% of the time. But I actually really enjoyed the other characters. Like the Sandy girl, and we'll get to this like during the Hollywood section. I have a really good actress for her. But I was picturing her the whole time, and I really liked her in the show that she's from. And so I was enjoying her character. I weirdly liked Cora, the grocery store owner. She was quirky, but also creepy. And I don't know, I just, like, I liked their community. And I obviously, Gilmore Girls love small towns.
Yes.
So I really wanted more of that. Like every time he would go into town, it would only be to one shop and then go back to his own. And I wanted him to stay there, stick around, talk to people more. Like the butchers, that couple, they were only spoken about for maybe 5 pages. And I was like, what's their story? Like,
they had a full-blown like farm behind them, and they were actually
butchering the sheep on the island.
Yeah.
So that would have been more interesting. The like pub owners, I really just wanted everyone's story, and especially after it was revealed like who these people were, how they were related to Abby. That was such an interesting just like segment of the book that she could have delved into so much deeper. That would have been so much more interesting than this guy roaming around hallucinating on the island and just thinking about how to get out and like, oh, I see my wife. Oh, no, it's not her. Oh, I see my wife. It's not her. Like, that got really tiring up to a certain point. I was like, okay, I'm done with the storyline. Bring on something more interesting. And the town characters were so interesting. So why she didn't utilize them more, I don't know. And then the ending, like, what he was hallucinating at the end that we first thought was the ending, I loved that ending. Can I spoil it? Can I say what it is? Yeah. Okay, so
the whole show is a spoiler. Spoiler.
Yeah. So at the point of his, I guess, hallucination where he was given the ultimatum, like, you write, make bestsellers, the island lives off of that money and you make a measly salary, but like you live, or we kill you. And at the point in the hallucination where he was like, he wrote Beautiful Ugly, it was a bestseller. I don't know, we'll get into if that was a hallucination or what, but at that point where he was living on the island, like finally talking to Sandy and just like part of the community with the walkie-talkie and everything, I was like, I love this, like amazing ending. I was so happy with it. And then whenever he turns up in the coffin being buried alive, I was like, this is way too dark for me and I need to get out of this. I was so happy that like ended very quickly because I didn't want to read about it anymore. So I wasn't happy with that ending. I rather would have had the ending where he was living on the island, performing, like writing for them, making them money, and just like living until he died. And he was saying like he got gray hairs, like he didn't have that much life to live, I guess. I don't know. But
I think they said he was 50. So he did, but it's okay.
Yeah, but I just would have so enjoyed that more, you know? And there's so many women on the island. Like, I feel like he could have found love. He loved the priest girl. Can you call a woman a priest?
She said reverend.
Reverend.
And I'm like, they had a vibe, but yeah.
They had a vibe, and then there was another woman, I guess it was his ex-wife's now wife, that he found like really attractive. But I just feel like he could have found love on the island. Like, he was writing, he was alone, that's what he wanted. Like, he could have lived a decently happy life. So why they had to bury him alive, I don't know. But overall, I liked it. I just would have changed it to be more of the side characters rather than him 90% of the time.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions that I included in our discussion, was because I'm so tired of talking about Grady and just like listening to him talk, is that I want to talk about other people.
Okay.
And I agree with you. Like, there's parts in the book where it got interesting when he would see briefly, like, and thought it was his wife, or like there was eyes like watching him sleep, and then he felt someone was like under his bed. Those parts of it, I was like, okay, we're finally getting somewhere with this. Spooky vibes. But then the author just continued to talk about it through Grady's POV. And I was like, can we just go from Abby? Like, whenever Abby started talking, I was like, this girl is psycho. But then we understood, like, why she was being this way later. But still, you know what? Like, it was still something. Yeah. But I was like, why can't we get more into, like, her mind, her brain? Because what happened at the end and, like, how he was actually the one who, like, pushed her over the edge when she initially went missing. I'm sorry, if that was a female who did that, she would not have left any, like, stone unturned. All of the...
She would have been, like, double kicked off the ledge.
No, literally. And, like, he just, like, did it half-assed and expected her to just disappear in the ocean? Yeah. Sir, like, get it together. He just seemed, honestly, I know that he was, like, an author and like a bestseller and just like meant to be like a smart character, but he was actually idiotic. Like, that's the only way to describe him. And I think that's why like I'm being so harsh on this book, is because he was such an idiotic character, and 90% of the book I felt like we were just looking at it through his POV and just talking about him. Yeah. So yeah.
And not the best person to be narrating throughout the entire time.
No.
Also, I just remembered I said spooky vibes, and during like one of the projects we were like meeting with people, and they were talking about you. They're like, oh my god, you and your sister look a lot alike. And Dad was like, oh my god, show them your podcast. And I was like so
he
embarrassed.
Said that?
Yeah. So embarrassing, but I pulled it up, and turns out they are readers, and I was explaining our March book of the month, and I said it's spooky vibes, and I kept saying that, and so it just reminded me. So if you guys are listening, shout out to you guys. I hope you liked the book, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast.
Who was this?
I'll tell you after.
Oh my god, I love it. I love that Dad was like, tell him about your podcast. Shameless plug. Let's get 2 more readers.
It was a little shameful, but yes.
He actually texted me before we started recording. He's like, I'll call you after. Good luck, guys. And then put like the shamrock emoji.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, cute. Okay. I wonder if it was Mom texting through his phone, but it's fine.
Oh my god.
We'll give him some credit, okay?
Totally could. If it's an emoji, it's her.
Oh, true.
It's not him.
There's 2 emojis on that. But yeah.
Okay. Him.
All right.
He is not going to be texting with 2 emojis. It's definitely
He does hearts sometimes.
Not.
He does.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
What were we saying? Yeah, not the best narrator. Also, he found out that the teas that he was drinking were hallucinogens, and he kept drinking them anyway. He was drinking himself into an oblivion, driving on rocky roads, like while being tipsy or buzzed or whatever. Literally the worst narrator.
Worst. And I loved Cora for that. That's when I was like, this girl's funny, because she just like gave it to him. Like,
without telling him.
This is the town specialty tea. Like, here you go. This one's on me. Like, please just keep drinking this.
Yeah. No,
I loved it.
I loved that the whole town was in on his demise. I love the community aspect, even though they were doing it to hurt someone and just be psychotic with it and devise a whole plan for it. But I just like really liked their quirkiness. Okay, do you want to get into the questions? Okay, number 1, did you grow to care about Grady and Abby as characters?
Okay, could give 0 cares about Grady. I was gonna literally curse.
Rat's ass about Grady.
Rat's ass, no reason to enjoy or want to like read more about this character. He honestly was just so negative about his life, Abby's life, what she was doing, and just like
he was pathetic.
The world in general, just so negative. Honestly,
stealing someone else's book. Like,
so wild, leaving Sandy like on the edge,
when he saw the high tides coming, and like being relieved that she was dead and couldn't rat him out for stealing a book. And
no,
obviously trying to kill his wife. That should have been.
And I know that like this book wasn't that long, so we were only reading it for like a few days, even though we were like rushing through it.
Yeah.
But it was so negative that it put me in like a negative like headspace.
Yeah.
And I just do not love when books do that. So for that reason, like Grady, no, like you are an absolute no for me.
Yeah.
But for Abby, okay. When she started talking to her therapist, which again, like, why are we
reading about a therapist?
Why are we reading about a therapist? Like
that one,
in this
I
one,
didn't mind because, like, I don't know. I guess it should have been because there were already a decent amount of characters. Like, I wish she would have been talking to Kitty or someone that we knew.
It was just like one
just to
extra
bring
person,
everything together. Not even because I didn't think about the therapist like as a character. I guess it was just like a way for the author
to tell the story.
Yeah. And like be telling it just openly and not holding stuff back. But then that's what Abby did. She held stuff back. She didn't say everything to the therapist. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, why didn't you tell the therapist like I'm pregnant and all of this stuff?
What if you're married to someone and you're not communicating like
they're both effed up. Him getting a vasectomy, her
going
getting
through IVF. I'm sorry,
without
like
telling your partner,
and just drowning or like draining their bank account to cover the IVF. Even though she's the one like covering all of their bills, like I understand that, but like you're still in a marriage, you're still in a partnership, and that just seems such like. Obviously, Grady's at fault, but so is Abby because they're not communicating. They're not speaking to each other.
I wasn't rooting for either of them, honestly, because Abby, like, when she was talking to the therapist, I just felt like she had the same vibe as, what's his name? Grady. And they were, like, meant to be because they were both from, what's the saying? Like, both.
Broken homes?
No, they were from the same pot. Is that what it is?
What do you mean? Like they're just
like they were of the same ilk where both negative. Like she never told her husband because they would have a fight, right? When she would say, "I think I want a baby." You don't tell your husband, "I think I might want to have a baby." You have to say, "This is what I want." Like. Crap or get off the pot, you know?
And this is the smallest thing, but she, like, towards her talking about, like, their marriage, she's like, well, I didn't even like fish and chips. That was, like, their meal to celebrate, and I'm like, this is the littlest thing, and, like, if you can't talk about fish and chips, like, you cannot speak about a baby, ma'am. Like, no.
No, I called my husband for this. I'm like, I want Chick-fil-A. And he's like, let's see. And, like, who turns on Chick-fil-A, first of all? But
and I will still be getting it. Like, what? You could have something else, but it's just like
the easiest stuff. And that's what I dislike about books is when the authors just make things hard, or the characters make things harder on themselves than they have to be. Just say, I don't like fish and chips. Just say, obviously the baby is the harder one. But when she wasn't even saying, like, I don't think, you like me anymore. You need to talk about it more and not just give hints. Like, you have to put things out there, and that's seriously psychotic to do IVF on your own and then tell your husband later. And also, like, her doing IVF, that also means that she probably tried to get pregnant by her husband and it didn't happen.
Oh my God,
and so that's something on itself. Like, you were trying
deceitful.
Yeah, trying to rope him into something that he didn't want, and you just didn't get it because he took care of that, like, on his own side.
Which, again, like,
which is crazy in itself, like, doing that without telling your wife. But also, her sitting down with the therapist and not telling the therapist everything. Why are you there? Like, you didn't tell the therapist that you're pregnant.
Yeah.
You didn't tell the therapist all the details. She said, I have multiple reasons to leave my husband, but this is just one that I'll tell her, and it's that I'm scared. Okay? Like, be vaguer. Seriously. No.
Yeah, and that was like a third-party person, right? So, like, she's not there to judge you. You're just there to speak your mind, I believe. Girl? I don't know. So, okay. For Abby, I just felt like she was kind of putting herself in this bad place.
Yeah.
And bringing this on herself. Like, honestly, like, she could have done so much more
100%.
at the beginning of their relationship, in the middle of their relationship, when he was becoming, like, a published author, a more successful author, and she was successful in her own right. So she has every right to speak up about her needs, and she just didn't. Like, get a backbone, and then once you get that backbone, then we can talk about, like, how he's not the right person for you because you're speaking your mind and he's still not, like, meeting you in the middle of compromising, right? So she brought that upon herself. But then I loved, like, hearing about her in this Scottish town because she was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave my entire life behind and start over in Scotland. Psycho, but I guess do it. Like, I don't know. I was waiting for, like, something to happen in this book rather than just being like, I saw my wife. I think I hallucinated and saw my wife. I needed something more of, like, substance. And so when she started, like, we started hearing more about, like, her pottery, like, just everyone in the town, like, how she was connected. I was like, finally. But that did not happen until 65% into the book.
Yeah, and also how she randomly just got with a girl after the guy, and it was like, okay, like, I just felt like things were popping up like, without explanation.
I know.
And even towards the end, like, the ending is confusing because it's up to, I guess, everyone's interpretation, and we weren't given clues as to why he ended up in the coffin, which, you know, we'll get to later.
And Alice Feeney, like, when she was writing, like, there were some connections to, at the end, to kind of, like, tie a little bow and be like, this is how this happened, this is why, you know, how she ended up back in this, like, Scottish town. She was there as a kid. Kitty was there with the previous writer. Kitty was married to the previous writer, whose cabin Grady was staying in.
Yeah,
all
Chris
of those,
Whitaker,
like, loose ends were tied such late in the book that it felt rushed, where it was like, we kind of said this with the last two book club picks, where it's like everything happens towards the end where you're just like,
paced well.
It's not paced well, and you're like catching your breath, trying to be like connecting the dots on your own,
trying to remember every single detail that they put in the first 90% of the book so you can understand the last 10%.
No.
And it, like, especially the way, okay, I know we're like straying from this question, but Grady, the amount of times he thought he saw his wife, but it wasn't her, like, half of those could have been deleted to edit all of, like, that back end stuff and move it, like, more to the front of the book, and so we could have had, like, more substance throughout. And also, like, I just thought about this, and I want to say it now so I don't forget, but just like I was talking about Abby just, like, randomly turning into a lesbian and, like, raising her kid with this lady. The whole town didn't want men in it.
Oh now, my God.
I just want to know how they're going to populate this island for the next generation. Like, are they going to bring men just to, like, breed babies and then ship them off? Like, or just, like, go outside, have one-night stands, come back to the island pregnant, give birth, and, like, do the things? I literally don't understand, and that makes no sense. And all of these women were middle-aged women, so it's not like there's a lot of years left to figure it out. Like, one of the, Sandy was, like, older. I want to say in, like, her 70s or 60s, 70s.
She had a daughter that, like, was part of, like, the missing.
There were children, and then the children ended up all dying because of, like, the high tide in the dark cave. So how are you planning on populating?
At what point in the book did you even realize these were all women? Because I did not realize that
until they told me. Because I love women, I would have loved more. And the main character was a guy. So why would we think that everyone else, like, why would we clock that as weird?
Yeah, and then I thought about it, and I was like, wait, the butcher couple was also a lesbian?
Yes.
And I still didn't make that connection until they said everyone on the island is a female.
Yeah, it was like, oh, like, lesbian. Like, I didn't think anything of it, especially because the main character, if he's a guy, and the rest are women. Like, to us, it's balanced, right? So I think that was, like, a nice twist that I didn't particularly
People did see that coming, though, because once I was doing the discussion questions, and, of course, I stumbled upon Reddit.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, exactly, like, how are they going to populate this town? Who are these, like, feminist, like, females that literally think they can just, like, run shit? And it's, you know what? More power to you. But again, how do you?
I'm just thinking about the non-lesbians. Like, you guys like don't want to part, and if you don't, that's cool. I'm just like, they all ended up. Because not all of them ended up in the town, right? Like, a lot of them were born there. So I'm just thinking Sandy, like, she got pregnant before. So, like, is she straight? Is she, like, does she not care to, like, ever be with a guy?
You know what?
Like,
maybe one of the rules is going to be, like, you have to become a lesbian if you want to live here.
But then, like, how are you going to have babies? Like, go out of town to do IVF?
Well, or they have their visitors, visitor season,
LOL.
which also, like, what? How?
I didn't even know. Actually, that's so crazy. I just thought about this. Like, I was thinking the same thing. How do you have a visitor season and you can't go, like, outside of those times? Mm-hmm. But, like, I go to St. Bart's, right? Like, almost every summer. And they have a time where the island is kind of closed. And, like, but the thing is, you could book a ferry or a plane ride over there, but nothing is open. The hotels aren't open, and a lot of the restaurants are closed, and it's only locals there. So, oh my God, true. That's so crazy. Like,
but even then, like, they make it so hard to, like, get on the island of what was it called?
Isle of Amberley.
Yes, that. Yeah. And no, you're right. Like, all of Italy is shut down all the month of August. Like, so when you visit, you're just like,
no, it's not shut down the month of August.
Well, I know exactly, but there's so many shops that were like fully just like, they're like, oh, we're on.
It's different. The hotels are open.
That's true. But oh my God, your phone's like vibrating nonstop. I was like, what is this? I don't have my phone on me. But no, like, how are they surviving on just 3 months of busy season? Like, they said even the pub makes all of the...
Yeah, but I think they were lying to Grady,
that's
because
true.
then
They
at
just
the end
wanted
we find
him
out
to...
that Chris Whitaker's books made them the money to, like, survive on the island.
True.
Also, we went into this next question, so I just want to read it real quick. What did you think about the residents of Isle of Amberley, which we got into, where they had, like, a season just for the tourists? And I guess the difference between what I'm talking about and this is they have a season for tourists, whereas St. Bart's has a season without tourists. Yeah. And so it's just the total opposite. And I think, like, the characters to be that quirky and for, like, the murder accident to happen and no one to, like, get cops involved and, like, that whole scene didn't happen is because they're so isolated. Yeah. So that isolation was 100% necessary for the sanctity of this plot, or else we would have been like, okay, why did cops not get involved with this random body?
But Sandy being the only cop, like, she's the sheriff.
Yeah, she's like, no crime happens. Like, yeah, I guess it doesn't unless, like, the people you don't care about are turning up dead. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Sure. No, like I said, I think just, like, that side of Europe is intriguing because it is so remote.
Scottish Highlands. I literally need to go to the Scottish Highlands because every single book that I read ends up there, and it's so
Was
crazy.
It the Heiress that was? No, that wasn't Scotland.
No, it's all of my Christmas books take place in the Scottish Highlands. Yeah. And they have that in the title, like, Christmas at the Scottish Highlands. So I need to go visit this place for research. Use like a
Isle of
business card or something.
Amberley, whatever this place is, because it sounds so serene and just remote, quaint, quiet, small town community. Yeah. Everything that we would love to see and travel. Yeah. But because of this book, I swear, I'm just like,
you know, now that I'm thinking about it,
I don't want to think about this.
Also remembering, so a few years ago, like before we discovered like our favorite island now, there was a hotel that we loved, and we would literally go on their website and see where they were located to figure out our next like destination spot. And this hotel was in this extremely remote island, and it reminds me of this book. And we actually did not, it looked so beautiful, okay? We did not go to it because it was so remote. We were like, we're gonna get murdered in this place. because all of the reviews were like, it's actually creepy how remote it is. And you see the same people throughout. There's only like 25 people like this book on the island. It was very creepy vibes, spooky vibes, and that's literally why we chose not to go, because the pictures looked amazing.
So like you're saying, like this remote setting, whatever. When I am on a trip, I want the energy. I want like people around me. I want to see like what people are doing. And that's why like I can't be in such a quaint little town because I will get bored of that daily life.
I'm the opposite. But I'm not to the creepy part.
Yeah.
I'm right before the creepy quaint. I'm just right at the quaint. Like whenever we went,
I think when I'm like a little bit like ready for like that slow pace, like I will be ready for that, but just yet like I'm not there.
No, I totally get that. I think everyone else around us is into that. They need energy on their vacations, but we're just like not really those people. Like we don't want to see too many people, so it would be right up my alley. Besides, you know,
not
the murderous
just
vibes.
To like get in there. But I agree. Okay, we've been like rambling. What is question 3?
Wait, let me see. I had to take a sip.
Oh, I did write a very long question 3, so apologies.
No, it's not. You're thinking of the next one.
Oh, okay.
I hope you die in your sleep. That's in quotes. As saying, I love you. What are your thoughts? So Abby and Grady, instead of saying, I love you at the end of the night, they would say, I hope you die in your sleep, because at some point in the book, Abby said, you know, when you love someone, like you don't, like you just want them to be like peaceful forever, like you don't want anything bad to happen to them. So she said, I hope you die in your sleep. I hope you die peacefully is what she means. What are your thoughts as saying this as I love you? Can I go first? Because I just thought of something.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of random things while I'm talking. When I was in middle school, I had this friend, and it was high school. And she had a boyfriend, and they like wouldn't say I love you. They would say something like I like you. And like at that point, like obviously you didn't love anyone, right? Like you just said it. But people just pretended like I love you. Fine. They didn't do that. And I was like, something is up. Like this is weird and something's not right with this. I don't know if this is PC to say, but like he turned out to be gay. Like he didn't. And I was like, that's why he didn't want to say I love you, because like he didn't mean it.
Wait, I need to know who this is after, but yeah.
You don't know her. But it was just so funny to me. So now thinking of this, like I hope you die in your sleep, I feel like that just shows like how much you don't love the person, and how like you're just honestly like a weird human being. I'm sorry. Like that's just weird to me, and because of my personal experience, I feel as though I can say with certainty that this is just like not a normal thing to do in your relationship.
No, and also imagine the first time someone says this to you. The first time that she probably said this to Grady, why was his head not like spinning, being like, what the fuck, lady?
Because
like,
they're both weird people.
I just like I had to write this down because I found this so alarming. Every single time they said, I hope you die in your sleep right before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And end the night. Like I had to highlight it because it was astonishing to me that people spoke this way.
I think the messaging also changes the older you get, because it becomes more of a possibility. And that's
my God,
weird. And
stop.
they were middle-aged people. Like you're not in your 20s, you know?
Yeah, no, I can't think about it, and I don't know why that didn't rub Grady the wrong way when I think it was Abby who said it the first time, where it's like, I hope you die in your sleep. But I think it honestly foreshadows, like, to the reader what kind of relationship they were going to have. After this, no, exactly. After this, my eyes were a little bit more open to, like, everything Grady was saying about Abby. And then when Abby started talking about Grady, I was okay, there's something, like, a little bit more fishy that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, we got to it that, like, last 75% of the book.
Yeah.
But that was the weirdest point of this book, where they say, I hope you die in your sleep, as a sentiment of, I love you.
Yeah. Okay, the next question. I think I typed it wrong.
Oh, okay.
This is what I have. Tell me if I typed it correctly. Thoughts on their relationship? ? How how did Grady and Abby's POV explain their relationship and the events that led to the end?
That was a part of the previous question. Like, I was just making a statement of,
Oh, gotcha.
So we kind of talked about this. Like, Grady's POV about their relationship was sunshine or rainbows aside
happiness.
from Abby's job and how successful of a writer that she was. And there was one point in the book where he literally said, she always had my back. She always read my body of work, all of my books. She was the first editor of my writing. And then once he was getting like the clippings of all of her articles from the Times, when he was on the remote Scottish island, someone was like slipping it under his door. There was like 3 or 4 of them. He only had read one. All of the others, he was like, I've never seen this story. I don't know who she's talking about.
And that's not a supportive husband.
That's
like,
not a supportive...
I don't know. My husband doesn't listen to this podcast.
That's true,
so
but he understands, or he's at least like listening to like what book you're reading, or like...
That's true.
You know?
And he would get my Goodreads emails and read those.
1000%. He's keeping tabs. He's keeping tabs.
Yeah.
Clearly, Grady is not keeping tabs, and it's like, you already, like... And the way that Abby described him, like, to the therapist, the first thing that she said was, you're selfish. Like, I continued to tell him that he was selfish. And, like, that became apparent whenever all of these clippings came about. Then Abby speaking about their relationship, going on and about, like, how they met, like, on this flight and then, like, connected on their past. She didn't even tell him the truth about her past. How does she say that they are connecting on their past?
Yeah, they were both just, I think, crazy people. Like, especially the plane scene where
oh my God.
he was like, I'm gonna go to sleep, and then, like, felt her up on the flight. And she didn't say anything either. Like, I'm sorry, he's crazy and you're crazy. He was probably sussing out how much craziness can you take? Oh, you can take a crap ton? Yeah. Let me throw it on you. So, like, not to victim blame, but, like, she was also just, I don't know.
No,
like
we said, she's bringing this upon herself. She's not being truthful. She's not speaking up for herself. And that's why she found herself in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that is, like, wild.
That second part of the question, like, the events that led to the end. So I just want to talk about like what your interpretation of the end was and what mine was, because we also went on Reddit, and please comment or just like tell us on Instagram what you think happened in the end, because the way Sarah took it and the way I took it, I think it's kind
slightly
of different. And I don't understand, because at first he's saying, you know, he's friends with everyone in the town. Oh, first of all, Kitty, his editor, gave him like an ultimatum. You either write bestsellers, we keep the money for the island.
Also, I love that she was like, I'm going to take my 15% first, and then
I'm
like, yes,
island.
Girl.
Yes. So she was like, you either write us bestsellers that we can use to just like upkeep the island and continue with that for the rest of your life, or we kill you. And then it says a year later, he's going into the grocery store. He's talking to Sandy. He's just like dilly-dallying about the village. And then he like goes to sleep in his bed, but then he wakes up in a coffin and he's being buried alive. So essentially at the end, they're killing him, right? And he said that was his greatest fear, being buried alive. So that's what they did to him. My question is, was that him like saying hi to everyone actually living in the village? Because it said like a year later. So was he living in the village that entire time, and then they chose to kill him after they got money off of his book Beautiful Ugly? But like that doesn't make sense, because they said like he could have kept writing hit after hit after hit. He hadn't dried up yet. He just sent his like new book. So like, why are they now killing him? And like, I don't think that was a hallucination, because then why was he buried alive a year later?
Yeah.
That doesn't make
sense. My interpretation was, yes, he was still living on the island because they had given him a spot and said, here's your little area and you stay here, stay in this area, continue to write, continue to be a part of this community, kind of at a distance, like not with all the females. But you are our mule to get income to keep this town alive, right?
So why kill him?
So I think what happened was he had a 2-book deal. So Beautiful Ugly was the first one, and actually it turned into a movie. They adapted it into a movie.
Big bucks.
Yep. And so they got big bucks for that. The second book was, he had already submitted that, is what I interpreted.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they're like, well, this is perfect. Like, we have had enough of like his stories. And when he had published his book, there was some mention that we talked about like before we started the podcast about how the chapters started. He talked about
he put in a secret message into the book, and he said it was the first word of the first 14 chapters. Now, I don't understand why it was the first 14 chapters of the book. Like, even if someone was looking for a code, like, how would you know to stop after 14. Chapter 14?
But they
like,
didn't
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
was weird in itself. And so I guess that if you wanted to take it as an insinuation that they found out about his secret message and killed him before the public came looking for him.
Yep.
Okay.
And then he actually spoke the truth. So I think, for me, they got out of him 2 of the book deals, which Kitty promised would happen. In a span of a year, they got those 2 big book deals. Beautiful Ugly turned it into a movie. So now they have rights. What are they called?
Like movie rights?
Yeah, not movie rights. Royalties from the movie.
Okay.
Moving forward for life.
But it could not be a hit. Like, not every movie makes royalties.
Yeah, but like, I think they insinuated that it was a big success in my mind. And they were like, we've gotten enough out of this man that we can't kind of risk what he's going to say or do next, because like he's already kind of like off the rocker. And Kitty was his editor, like, and she didn't catch the first 14 chapters and the clues in that. So I think it just made them nervous of like what he would do next. And so it's like, at the risk of that, let's just end him now and we'll find another scapegoat to kind of survive this town. That was my interpretation. And
that to me doesn't fully make sense, just because Kitty said while she was explaining the ultimatum to Grady that it's hard to find people who are not going to be looked after. So no one knew that Grady was on the island. No one cared about him. No one was looking for him. He isolated himself away from friends and family. And so no one cared to go looking for him. They probably didn't even notice that he was gone. And she said that that's really hard to come by. And like, how, that is so hard. Okay. So now they're going to kill him and then try and go find someone else to come to the island, trap them, and like write books. It just seems like so much work when someone is already alive, able, ready to do that work, and you're gonna kill him off.
Could it also be
any sense
that this was truly just a hallucination by him and like he didn't die? Is there any way?
It said 1 year later. So what would he have been doing for a whole year before being buried alive?
He was writing. I know, I'm saying like the burying alive part, could that be a hallucination of him? Just like...
And then he would wake up, but like we don't know.
Yeah. Like, could Alice Feeney be that twisted in the writing?
And it could be like you literally don't know what happened because he was still drinking the hallucinogen teas.
He's still drunk, yes. And we know that he like hallucinates all the time. And the last sentence was him kind of like overhearing the walkie-talkie and Abby saying, "I hope you die in your sleep." So it may just be like another hallucination of his where he heard that prior to, in the book, he heard that line from Abby multiple times. So it may just be that Alice Feeney wrote the book in hopes that we would just interpret it our own way. And initially I did interpret him being like fully dead, But now that I'm thinking through this, I was like, wait, no, he's alive. This was just a hallucination. He's alive. And there's going to be a book 2 of this.
You actually just blew my mind. Seriously.
No, I think there's a book 2.
I was
it's open.
just thinking the end is the end.
No, this is not the end.
He died and they killed him.
No, this is not the end. No, there's a book 2. He did not die.
Oh my God, love it. Okay, let me go.
To your Hollywood section. Yes. Okay, wait, no, let's do the ratings really quickly.
No. Ratings
okay, you want
is
to
at the end.
Well, let me go first for the Hollywood section. I know in the book they said that he got a movie deal. The movie is made. There is a release date, and they're actually having a
like a
premiere.
Premiere, yeah.
Let me just say, I never want this to be a book. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it.
A movie.
And a movie, sorry. So I did not pick characters to play.
That's totally fine. That's really fine. I could feel Sarish's like hatred through the phone.
It wasn't really hatred. It was more just like annoyance of I don't want to say time wasted. I'm being too harsh. But it was just like so negative that it put me in a negative headspace, and I was like, I don't want to give this more airtime.
Yeah. You do you. Can I see my phone? I just want to Google something. So I have my girl for Sandy.
That's like your favorite character.
It is, but I want to like say her character's name from the thing. Okay.
From the
show that I'm about to say. Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So for the Hollywood section, I'll start off with Grady since he was the narrator.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I was picturing Paul Rudd. I can totally see him being a writer and like kind of growing out his beard and like, I don't know. I feel like he could, and by the way, I really like him.
I was just going to say, I really like Paul Rudd, and I don't want him to, like, play this character.
I just feel like he could play that kind of character that could be all things. Like, charismatic when he goes to the parties, like, being in isolation, and just, like, growing out his hair,
he does sometimes have that beard.
Like, being a good husband, but also having a dark side. Like, I feel like he can play everything.
Okay.
And that's just, like, the type. And they didn't say he was, like, so much of, like, a burly man or something.
No,
you know?
No.
But
there
just,
wasn't, like, physical descriptors of him.
And
just handsome.
They said that he was handsome, but in kind of a not obvious way.
Yeah, nerdy
which I
handsome.
feel like perfectly describes Paul Rudd. And then for Abby, I had Emilia Clarke.
From Hunger Games?
No,
not
Game
Hunger
of
Games.
Thrones.
Yeah.
And she's like a brunette. She's like a little bit younger, but I could see her as just someone not being so assertive in her marriage, you know?
I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I know of her. But, okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear Sandy.
Okay, Sandy is also from Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
By the way, I only watched the last season of Game of Thrones, so I don't know why two.
Like the remake or like the actual last season of
I watched the remake
original.
Fully.
Okay.
The original, I only watched the last season.
Got it.
So the lady's name is actually Gwendolyn Christie, and her Game of Thrones character is Brienne of Tarth. I guess that's how
you're
you
losing
say
me,
it.
but I want to see this.
It's her. Because
no, I like that. I could see her in like a little sheriff's, like whatever she was wearing at the very beginning.
She was so tall, and like in Game of Thrones, she's very much a tomboy, and it's said in the book like he thought that she was a man until you see her face, and then you realize it's a woman because she's so tall.
And I think they said that she was blonde as well in the book, Sandy. Like at the beginning scene.
I'm not sure. But they also said that she has short hair, although she could put it into a ponytail in the book. But in Game of Thrones, she also had short hair.
I like that.
Yeah. And like whenever you see her face, she's like a really pretty woman, but like from far away, like you.
Someone who's like tall in the build, it makes sense.
Yeah, wearing like a big jacket, like big pants, you know, not
oversized.
Okay, on to the rating, Sarah. You
go first. Like I feel like I don't want to.
Okay, when I first sat in my chair, my rating was a 3.9, now that we have talked about it, I think I'll drop it to like a 3.8, honestly. Okay. Is what I'm feeling. Fair. I could also go 3.
But that's your personal, like, what's your Goodreads?
Goodreads, I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Let me do 3.9. I'm sticking with 3.9.
Personal rating. Okay. I love that.
Oh my god, should I do a 4? Sarah's just giving me a look.
No. Just kidding.
It would have been a 4, but I just like, if it was like better paced, I would have given it a 4.
That's so fair.
3.94 is my rating. I'm sorry, I can't choose.
Okay. Well, if it wasn't so negative, the book,
yeah,
I would have had a higher rating.
Okay.
I just did not enjoy the negativity of this book.
Okay.
But I will say, aside from the pace, the way that it was written well.
Okay, great.
So rating? For that reason, I'm going to give her a 3 on Goodreads. Okay. And my personal rating, 2.8.
Okay.
It's honestly not as bad as
what you've done.
I'm giving. Yeah.
Okay.
In my personal mind. But Goodreads 3, I feel like that is very fair.
I really want to see the bookstagram community's rating. So
yeah,
after
well,
this,
can you
I'll
go on Goodreads really quickly? I think it said 3.7 or 3.8.
Okay, let me see.
So very much aligned with your
3.68. And it has, oh my god, already almost 83,000 ratings. Go Alice Feeney. Wow.
Wow, this is from January.
That is insane.
I love that for her. And also I think I read that she was a BBC like columnist before writing novels. Like this is her 7th novel. So happy for her success, and just like the wild reception to the book. I don't think, honestly, a lot of bad books on Goodreads have like 4 point something stars, and like I think, especially like the things that we saw on Reddit, people didn't receive it well. But I don't know. I really liked the side characters. Yeah, but I think Reddit is always like so polarizing. Like no one in between is really speaking their mind. It's always just like usually so positive or so negative.
Yeah.
So I take that with a grain of salt. But I think overall we are in the middle and kind of aligned with the Goodreads rating. Yeah. So I feel good about it.
Yeah.
But thank you guys. That was March of Book Club. I love it.
Loved it. We had way more to say than what we thought, because before Sarah was like, what are we going to talk about?
I know. It's always like this. So where I'm like, what are we going to discuss? There's not much to talk about. And then you start yap. Literally.
Yeah, like my high school friends who didn't say
I don't know.
Okay. But thank you so much for listening. Our next episode will drop in 2 weeks, and that'll be the bookish one. Yeah, in April bookish. We don't exactly know what we're going to be talking about yet, but I'm sure we'll come up with something. Oh, and hopefully, in the meantime, I love beg, borrow, or steal, or find another book that I like, and hopefully, Serge, you'll also pick back up with reading.
No, I am in such a rut that it's actually crazy. If it wasn't for the book club podcast, like I'm scared that I wouldn't be reading right now at all.
So thank God that we decided to do this.
Thank God for our book club,
and hopefully look forward to daily stories.
Yes, keep us accountable for that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys. We hope you have a great spring, a start to your spring, and we'll connect back with you in April.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye.